What if you believed you knew the actress? Was she not herself? Dawn Wells was the charming Mary and to millions of Americans. However, behind the meanwhile, Dawn concealed a startling secret that may have ruined her reputation and career. This wasn't simply a hearsay. For decades, it remained secret. Co-stars, admirers, and even the producers had no clue. Now, following all these years, Dawn's Truthwell's guarded secret is now coming to light. And after hearing that, you won't ever return to Gilligan's Island in the same manner. The program that made people laugh in America. While some shows come and go, others remain in our lives for a very long time. The Island of Gilligan was a cultural phenomenon rather than merely a television program. For 3 seasons, it made people chuckle and reassured them that there is always space, even in situations where life seems like a shipwreck. For enjoyment and hope. There were times in each episode that gave viewers the impression that they were right there on the island, experiencing the castaways' difficulties, jokes, and modest successes. You are undoubtedly familiar with Dawn Wells if you watched Gilligan's Island as a child. She portrayed Mary, stranded on an island in Summers, the charming farm girl with a good heart and a bright smile. With an additional 6 castaways. She just captivated folks with something about her. Perhaps it was her kindness or the way she brought relatability and reality to even the most insignificant situations. Whatever it was that viewers immediately identified with her, and for many, the island wouldn't had the same emotions in the absence of Mary. And presently, Gilligan's Island narrates the tale of 7 folks who headed out for what was intended to be a straightforward 3-hour boat tour. However, when a storm arrived, things changed. Heavy seas tossed their boat around until they finally isolated from the outside world and stranded on a remote island. Many anticipated that the event will concentrate on survival, but it ended up being endearing and very humorous. The castaways didn't always agree, but their conflicting personalities produced the alchemy that made the island will never be forgotten. What started off as a survival story evolved into one of television's biggest charming journeys, based on humor, camaraderie, and the indomitable human desire to make even in the most difficult circumstances. In 1964, when Gilligan's Island debuted, the United States was undergoing significant transformation. The struggle for civil rights was expanding, and the country was beginning to split over the Vietnam War. People wanted a break because they were overwhelmed to take a vacation from the chaos. For this reason, the show seemed like the ideal diversion. It was easy, lighthearted, humorous, and suitable for the entire family. In a world where, given the war and protest headlines, Marianne's generosity served as a reminder that there was still goodness. Additionally, the show invites viewers to sit together, laugh, and set aside the concerns of the outside world. Regretfully, Gilligan's Island was cancelled. 1967. The 3 brief seasons and 98 episodes gave the impression that the castaways were taken too quickly. Interestingly, though, reruns kept the show alive. Brought back to life for a fresh audience. Families who had previously seen it together discovered themselves returning, as well as new viewers who weren't even born when it first ran. We were learning about it for the first time. Generation after generation continued to fall in love. With the same 7 souls that are stuck. The island seemed to be calling people back all the time. Life on set, however, was not as ideal as it appeared to be. Behind Dawn's happy grin was a tale that few people were aware of. While the show depicted her happy and full of, even her closest co-stars were unaware of some aspects of her life. For the viewers, she was the island's kind and compassionate heart, but out of the spotlight, Dawn was juggling personal challenges that conveyed a completely different message. But Dawn's capacity for equilibrium, what really made Marianne so brilliant and carefree, was her own problems in real life. Amazing. She was managing a complex life behind the camera in addition to performing for the camera. Scenes that required grace, fortitude, and strength. It's simple to overlook the characters. The characters we adore on television are real people, each with their own anxieties, difficulties, and secrets. The tale of Dawn Wells demonstrates how the happiness and wonder we witness on film frequently conceal the difficulties behind the scenes actors encounter. Beneath the naive grin of the country girl buried a truth big enough to change everything people believed about Dawn. Off camera, she lost the appearance of Mary and changed completely, becoming a woman with secrets that the world would eventually be shocked by. However, before we discover Dawn's true nature, hiding, and why, we must go back to the starting point. Going back to the times before celebrity, before the island, before the world ever heard her name. So let's get away from the laughter and palm trees, come get to know the young lady with those trademark braids and that wonderful grin. Because once when you learn about Dawn Wells' origins, you'll understand what life was like on that island. Wasn't as easy as it seems. Early life and career. The girl who nearly took a different course before Dawn Wells turned into the charming she was, a small-town girl from Reno, Nevada, but everyone fell in love with her when she was born on October 28, 1938. Nobody could have predicted the extent of her fantasies. Take her. Her mother stayed at home to care for the family while her father operated a nearby shipping company. Family. However, even as a little child, Dawn was perceived as unique. She had this bold, everyone knew she was meant for more because of her self-assurance and audacious spirit. Dawn enjoyed participating in school activities, gardening, and horseback riding. As a child, she was more than just a typical student. She even assumed positions such as class president and helped plan activities, demonstrating that even as a young child, she was self-assured, accountable, and vivacious. It's interesting to note that acting wasn't her first ambition. Dawn originally wanted to become a doctor. She cherished science and pursued a career in medicine while studying chemistry at Stevens College. However, life had other plans for her. She discovered while attending college that the theater, not the lab, she really belonged there. As her interest in theater deepened, she eventually shifted to the University of Washington. She studied in theater arts there and gave her all. Enthusiasm by immersing oneself in stage design, performance, and all things theater. Additionally, by the time she received her degree, Dawn had started laying the groundwork for a future with a degree in theater arts and design that would eventually make her well known. Before Hollywood started knocking, Dawn discovered that participating in beauty pageants could help one develop composure, confidence, and as well as visibility. In order to learn how to present, she attended local competitions after graduating. Herself with grace and charm. Her efforts were rewarded in 1959 when she won the title of Miss Nevada. Dawn saw the win as a door to further opportunities rather than just a trophy. She continued, she participated in the Miss America pageant there, competing against others from throughout the globe. The nation. Despite losing, she gained publicity from the event and really altered her entire life. Casting directors soon started to notice her. She began by landing tiny parts in advertisements and films, gradually establishing herself in Hollywood. She demonstrated that she was more than simply a lovely face. Her innate charisma, and it was impossible to ignore her because of the way she engaged audiences. Whether it was brief, people could watch her effortlessly light up the screen in a commercial or a small TV job, and that greater opportunities were made possible by presence. But in 1964, she made a significant breakthrough when she tried out for a new TV show called Gilligan's Island. She made an immediate impression. The producers, with her endearing personality, relatability, and obvious sweetness. She was chosen to play the part. As they say, the rest is history. Marion Summers was a kind, amiable girl from the heartland. Marion was more than simply a television character. She exuded a kind and grounded charisma that made people have the impression that they truly know her. Fans began writing letters almost immediately after Dawn, expressing their love for Marianne. She turned into everyone's girl next door. Wanted to be friends with someone who seemed genuine, amiable, and hard to dislike. Although Gilligan's Island only ran for 3 seasons, it was merely the start. Regards. Marianne continued to gain new admirers through replays, and she practically instantly became a cultural icon. People recognized her everywhere she went, so she stopped to talk about how much Marianne had intended for them. It became into a cultural phenomenon that connected people, not just a TV role. Generations, and kept Dawn's name shining long after the cameras stopped filming and the lights went out. Dawn continued to develop even after becoming a household name thanks to Gilligan's Island. As a performer, she embarked on new jobs, made appearances in talk shows and advertising, and even performed voiceover work, demonstrating to viewers that she was much more than just Marianne. She put her everything into each scenario, trying her hardest to say her lines perfectly. Her commitment won her the admiration of the crew and the respect of her co-stars. By the time she had developed from a small-town girl with lofty aspirations to becoming a household name because to Gilligan's Island, becoming one of the most adored TV personalities in America. And despite her immense renown, she maintained her modesty. Kind, and just as strong as ever. Additionally, despite the fact that the cameras recorded laughs and cheerful grins, life on set wasn't always simple. The actors put in long, exhausting hours, and the filming might be draining. There are conflicts and tensions behind the happy scenes. Occasionally, and the lovely island we saw on television wasn't always as ideal. Once the cameras had ceased recording. What if viewers saw the same thing every week? Was that only half the story? Beneath the laughter, the island concealed rivalries, secrets, and challenges that were never captured on camera. The untold tale of Gilligan's Island life. People only noticed the cast's excellent on-screen chemistry for a long time. However, behind the scenes, set life was far more difficult. The cast was put to the test with long hours and demanding shoots, and viewers were never able to witness the simmering tensions. What appeared to be laughing and enjoyment on TV frequently concealed the tension, arguments, and difficulties that influenced Gilligan's Island's true story. While it may seem like fun to film a TV show, the reality was anything but. The actors frequently spent 12 or prolonged exposure to hot, muggy studio lighting, which makes the island set feel anything but winding. They had to commit lines to memory and maintain their vigor despite being worn out. In between involves lengthy wait times and constant modifications, and following days like that, even the tiniest disagreements could quickly escalate into actual conflict. Additionally, a few of the actors had experience, while some actresses, like Dawn Wells, were still figuring out their position in the spotlight. Others were accustomed to it. Hollywood. This disparity in experience occasionally led to conflict. Various methods and styles of working situations and professional standards led to little disputes that subtly increased tension. On the set, Dawn was dedicated and nice, but overcoming these differences added an additional level of difficulty for her work. But among the most discussed conflicts, the debate between Ginger and Marion took place on set. The glitzy Ginger was portrayed by Tina Louise. Was frequently marketed as the main attraction. She was intended to have the appearance of a movie star. To serve as the series spokesperson. However, Dawn Wells' portrayal of Marion subtly won over fans. Her down-to-earth personality won over many hearts, and viewers wrote her letters. There were rumors that Tina wasn't always fond of this frequent comparison. Marion was receiving a lot of attention, which led to a subtle but apparent friction between the two actors. Even after the performance, Tina made a conscious effort to keep her distance from Gilligan's Island, declining interviews and reunion specials, thereby escalating rumors that the series did not satisfy her. But Dawn took care of things gracefully. She maintained her focus on her character and never promoted the rivalry. She frequently minimized any disagreement in interviews, saying that they were never adversaries and just didn't share many characteristics. It was impossible to overlook the difference, though. Marion quietly captured the hearts of the audience, while Ginger got the glitzy publicity and promotion. Week after week. Imagine having millions of admirers, being compared to a co-star all the time, and pondering whether your work would ever be appreciated for anything other than the characters everyone appeared on the screen. Dawn found it overwhelming. Comparisons, however, did not end the tension. On the set, money was another cause of stress. Although Gilligan's Island gained widespread popularity, the cast didn't receive the large repeat residuals that people believe they got, and their pay was minimal. Today, the network and the producers received the majority of the earnings. For her and Dawn, it was a frustrating reality. Co-stars. They put all of their love, joy, and energy into each episode for millions of viewers. However, the enormous success of the show was not reflected in the salaries. Additionally, the show's creator, Sherwood Schwartz, wanted the series to be straightforward, enjoyable, and family-friendly. However, some actors hoped for more from their characters. For more expansive plots and genuine moments. This visual disparity added another stress layer. In addition to financial difficulties and long hours, artistic conflict subtly increased the tension in the background. Additionally, there are rumors that the crew, and depending on their perceived popularity, producers occasionally treated cast members differently. Significance, or interpersonal relationships. Favoritism or little slights might have gone unreported by viewers, but they caused a lot of tension on the set. However, Dawn is said to have maintained her professionalism and compassionate, maintaining her concentration on the task at hand while feeling ignored or underappreciated. However, some of the stress on set was reduced by friendships. Dawn got along particularly well with Alan Hale Jr., the skipper, and Bob Denver, who portrayed Gilligan. They made jokes during lengthy, taxing shoots. They leaned on one another and assisted one another with lines. Although relationships lifted people's spirits, they were unable to totally eliminate the annoyances, rivalries, and underlying insecurities that are boiling. However, the majority of the tension never escalated to the general public. Fans simply witnessed camaraderie, laughter, and well-timed humor. They didn't observe the lengthy workdays, the parallels, or the personal hardships. Playing for Dawn Marion meant quietly taking care of her own concerns, minor ones, and making millions of people happy. Rivalries and tension that the world never witnessed. The set tension created a secret depth to Thesho's charm because the ensemble managed to create magic even in the midst of imperfect situations. Dawn Wells evolved beyond Marianne and demonstrated herself to be a strong, committed actress who gracefully juggled personal struggles, rivalries, and fame. When the musical concluded, the actors parted ways, but the memories remained. The giggles, disagreements, and friendships all contributed to a narrative that viewers were never able to witness. After several years, Dawn would show that she was proud of what they had produced despite the ups and downs. The Gilligan's Island made history. It wasn't merely a sitcom. Everyone believed she was still alive. Dawn's real life wasn't always as easy as her ideal life as America's sweetheart. And despite her notoriety and radiant smile, she dealt with a lot of difficulties and hid secrets on the set of Gilligan's Island, which many people never thought of. What actually took place during was Dawn shooting this program? The secret she kept hidden when filming Gilligan's Island. Dawn Wells' life appeared ideal to many. She was living the ideal of America's sweetheart, the dream that everyone coveted. However, things were different on Gilligan's Island. Things weren't always simple. Mary was adored by fans, but Dawn frequently thought they were only seeing the character and not her. Indeed, the role made she became well known, but it also constrained her and gave her a reputation from which she found it difficult to break. This long after filming was over, she continued to feel stressed. Later on, she said that it frequently felt like Marianne was more adored by the world than Dawn Wells. This was a persistent, silent ache. With her being observed but not really acknowledged, loved but never completely valued for who she was in reality. The charming, morally upright girl from the island was what fans desired, and Dawn had to maintain her charm while concealing the tension. This is where things start to get very interesting. Though Dawn glowed on screen as Marianne during the production of Gilligan's Island, but few realized that she was actually married. She had to conceal it from the millions of devoted fans, the actors, and the crew in order to safeguard her career. Hollywood was brutal back then, and married actresses were frequently viewed as less suitable for leadership positions. She felt pressured to conceal her marriage. Her daily, making her life off-screen much more difficult than it seemed. Imagine being the cherished girl next door, grinning every day, while keeping a very private aspect of your life hidden could have a profound impact. The pressure remained steady. And the worry of being found remained constant. Dawn was living a double life, not just acting. Life, striking a balance between celebrity, the demands of admirers, and a covert marriage that no one could find out about. Now, Dawn wed Larry Rosen in 1962. Fortunately, there was no social media or unrelenting paparazzi, allowing actors to somewhat conceal their private life. Easier. But there was a cost to keeping it secret. Dawn needed to conceal her spouse from the press, remove her wedding band while filming and doing interviews, and stay away from any indication of living outside of the spotlight. Every scene and every grin had to be meticulously scripted. Additionally, the show's demands on her time increased as her fame grew, and the demands of Hollywood grew unrelenting. Managing a covert marriage and a rapidly advancing career soon became almost impossible. The pressure and distance eventually became too much, and in 1967 her marriage ended in a discreet divorce that was kept out of the public eye. Managing everything was draining. And demanding, but Dawn handled it gracefully, concealing her personal hardships. Playing for Dawn Marion meant quietly taking care of her own concerns, minor ones, and making millions of people happy. Rivalries and tension that the world never witnessed. The set tension created a secret depth to Thesho's charm because the ensemble managed to create magic even in the midst of imperfect situations. Dawn Wells evolved beyond Marianne and demonstrated herself to be a strong, committed actress who gracefully juggled personal struggles, rivalries, and fame. When the musical concluded, the actors parted ways, but the memories remained. The giggles, disagreements, and friendships all contributed to a narrative that viewers were never able to witness. After several years, Dawn would show that she was proud of what they had produced despite the ups and downs. The Gilligan's Island made history. It wasn't merely a sitcom. Everyone believed she was still alive. Dawn's real life wasn't always as easy as her ideal life as America's sweetheart. And despite her notoriety and radiant smile, she dealt with a lot of difficulties and hid secrets on the set of Gilligan's Island, which many people never thought of. What actually took place during was Dawn shooting this program. The secret she kept hidden when filming Gilligan's Island. Dawn Wells' life appeared ideal to many. She was living the ideal of America's sweetheart, the dream that everyone coveted. However, things were different on Gilligan's Island. Things weren't always simple. Mary was adored by fans, but Dawn frequently thought they were only seeing the character and not her. Indeed, the role made she became well known, but it also constrained her and gave her a reputation from which she found it difficult to break. This long after filming was over, she continued to feel stressed. Later on, she said that it frequently felt like Mary Ann was more adored by the world than Dawn Wells. This was a persistent, silent ache. With her being observed but not really acknowledged, loved but never completely valued for who she was in reality. The charming, morally upright girl from the island was what fans desired, and Dawn had to maintain her charm while concealing the tension. This is where things start to get very interesting. Though Dawn glowed on screen as Mary Ann during the production of Gilligan's Island, but few realized that she was actually married. She had to conceal it from the millions of devoted fans, the actors, and the crew in order to safeguard her career. Hollywood was brutal back then, and married actresses were frequently viewed as less suitable for leadership positions. She felt pressured to conceal her marriage. Her daily, making her life off-screen much more difficult than it seemed. Imagine being the cherished girl next door, grinning every day, while keeping a very private aspect of your life hidden could have a profound impact. The pressure remained steady. And the worry of being found remained constant. Dawn was living a double life, not just acting. Life, striking a balance between celebrity, the demands of admirers, and a covert marriage that no one could find out about. Now, Dawn wed Larry Rosen in 1962. Fortunately, there was no social media or unrelenting paparazzi, allowing actors to somewhat conceal their private life. Easier. But there was a cost to keeping it secret. Dawn needed to conceal her spouse from the press, remove her wedding band while filming and doing interviews, and stay away from any indication of living outside of the spotlight. Every scene and every grin had to be meticulously scripted. Additionally, the show's demands on her time increased as her fame grew, and the demands of Hollywood grew unrelenting. Managing a covert marriage and a rapidly advancing career soon became almost impossible. The pressure and distance eventually became too much, and in 1967 her marriage ended in a discreet divorce that was kept out of the public eye. Managing everything was draining and demanding, but Dawn handled it gracefully, concealing her personal hardships behind her wide, happy smile. And then there was the loneliness with notoriety. Dawn frequently felt pressured by fans' unwavering expectations and the lengthy hours spent on stage. Isolated. She performed, acted, and made people laugh during the day, but behind closed doors. However, she struggled with worry and insecurity regarding her job and life off the island. Being Mary Ann made millions of people happy, but it also caused a rift between her own self and the world loved the persona. Nobody truly knew these secrets, which she concealed for a very long period. How hard she fought. As soon as the cameras began to roll, she had to enter the bright, happy persona that everyone anticipated, concealing her uncertainties and anxieties behind her jokes and happy grins. But Dawn Wells persevered in the face of all the difficulties. She was consistently warm, professional, personable, and the kind of co-star that everyone could trust. On location, she became the binding agent for the actors, teasing them, lending a hand, and maintaining uplifting throughout lengthy, taxing shoots. However, what was Dawn's actual life like following the show end? How did she handle notoriety, difficulties, and chances to appear there? Was she really that much more than Mary Ann? Gilligan's Island afterlife. Many anticipated that Dawn Wells would gently fade away after Gilligan's Island concluded in 1967. The limelight. Everyone remembered Mary Ann, after all, and Hollywood had a way of actors who are typecast. Dawn, however, was never one to give up. She wouldn't allow any character to characterize her life. Rather, she accepted her celebrity, put in a lot of effort, and set out to demonstrate that was so much more than Mary Ann to her. Over time, Dawn made appearances in over 150 television programs, innumerable advertisements, and an extensive range of stage national productions. From dramas to westerns, comedy to poignant character parts, her work demonstrated her versatility and commitment. Instead of depending on nostalgia, she wanted viewers to witness the genuine Dawn Wells, the performer who had dedicated their lives to gain a spot in the film industry. She was energetic even in less glamorous situations. Each performance with warmth and accuracy. Dawn continued to pursue her career, although she didn't avoid Mary Ann at all costs. In reunion specials, she reprised the role and even provided her voice. In the spin-off animated series. Fans continued to adore Mary Ann years later, and Dawn ensured the character remained loyal to herself. She took good care of Mary Ann, keeping her charming, cozy, and ageless, while demonstrating to the world that Dawn Wells was much more than just the island girl. Dawn, however, did more than just act. She started writing and released What Would Mary Ann Do You? A Guide to Life was a book that combined life teachings with anecdotes from personal experience. It wasn't a memoir in the conventional sense, rather, it considered and honored the principles underlying made admirers adore Mary Ann. Through her narration, viewers were given a close-up view of the lady behind the character, and it demonstrated her intelligence, sense of humor, and outlook on life. Readers were enchanted by her Hollywood tales as well as the manner in which she employed her experiences to uplift others, demonstrating that her kindness went well beyond the screen. Dawn committed herself to mentoring in addition to writing and performing. She established the purpose of the Film Actors Boot Camp is to assist aspiring actors in making the move to the working world. In doing so, she encouraged new actors, provided helpful advice, and gave them a secure environment for growth. Her contributions extended beyond only imparting knowledge. Dawn recognized what it wanted to assist people show the world what it felt like to be famous for just one thing. Every aspect of oneself. In addition to her acting career, she backed educational causes, women in entertainment, animal welfare, and subtly leveraging her notoriety to give back. Unfortunately, Dawn experienced financial difficulties in her senior years. Despite having a lengthy and prosperous career, her decades of success in the field did not protect her from actual difficulties, such as medical expenses and housing issues. It served as a reminder that Hollywood doesn't always honor skill or allegiance, and even a person who is adored by millions of people may experience difficulties that the general public is unaware of. Nevertheless, Dawn addressed these difficulties with poise. She never allowed them to overwhelm her happiness with her admirers or the friendliness she brought to every encounter. Dawn remained warm despite everything she had to deal with and friendly. She never harbored any animosity against Mary Ann or the direction the show took. Her profession. She smiled as she greeted admirers, cracked jokes, and showed genuine affection for everybody who happened to cross her path. During public appearances and interviews, she demonstrated that her life was richer and more intricate than what was displayed on the screen. Dawn was more than just the love interest of America. She was a dedicated individual who never stopped developing, changing, and respecting the part that had brought her fame. By the time her career ended, beyond Mary Ann, Dawn Wells had left a lasting legacy. She demonstrated her ability to do it all, helping up-and-coming performers, playing a variety of parts, and carrying herself with a level of expertise and compassion that is unmatched. She demonstrated to the world that even when you don't have to let a single role define who you are. For everyone who watched her as a child, she became a living example of how perseverance, kindness, and remaining loyal to oneself can mold a life as much as any fictional character. Dawn Wells's last years and legacy. Even after all these years, Dawn Wells remained in contact with her longtime admirers. She continued to giving interviews and going to fan events, always with the same kindness and charm that created Mary Ann. In contrast to those actresses who avoid the limelight, she welcomed it, telling tales, interacting with others, and honoring the part that brought her fame. Dawn's final years were not without difficulties. Despite all the charm and admiration, she had to deal with health problems and the wear and tear of a long career. But despite all, she managed anything with poise and resolve. In retrospect, it's simple to understand how her early existence readied her for this adventure. Her leadership experience and the self-assurance she acquired via pageants, her commitment to theater, and her academic pursuits combined to mold her into the actor who could take Mary Ann's place and leave a lasting impression. Hollywood can have a typecast. Certain actors, but Dawn's ability to blend warmth, genuineness, and professionalism enabled her to make a lasting impression. Regretfully, Dawn Wells died in December 2020 at the age of 82 due to COVID-19 related problems. Quickly, fans and co-stars flooded social media with memories and anecdotes about the woman who created Mary Ann, and the people who knew her well talked about her, but headlines referred to her as America's sweetheart. Her expertise, her humor, and her kindness. Her passing signified more than just the end of her career. It served as a reminder of the immense happiness, coziness, and charm she had brought into the world. The life of Dawn Wells was one of courage, resiliency, and reinvention. She dealt with the demands. Despite the pressures of celebrity, personal hardships, and Hollywood, she remained loyal to herself and showed generosity to others. Her story demonstrates that leaving a legacy involves more than only well-known roles or the spotlight. It's about your lifestyle, the work you do, and the happiness you bring to others. Folks in your immediate vicinity. Not only did Dawn portray Mary Ann, but she also served as a reminder of what elegance, wit, the heart can leave behind for centuries. As this video draws to a close, one topic should stay with us. What would you do if the world valued your character more compared to you? And if you were Dawn, would you be able to conceal your identity in order to pursue your dreams while remaining loyal to yourself? Please share your opinions in the comments. And remember to share, like, and subscribe. If you found this video entertaining, on your screen, click on the next video.